Good afternoon and welcome to Cobb County's work session this August 26, 2025. Today, the commissioners will be receiving an update with respect to our Economic Development Strategic Plan, and I'm going to turn things over to our Economic Development Director, Sabrina Wright, to help tee up today's presentation.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman, County Commissioners, and Dr. McMorris, County Manager. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you all today our vision for the Economic Development Strategic Plan for Cobb County. This will be the first strategic plan for economic development that the county has undertaken. As you know, economic development was identified as one of the strategic outcome areas in the countywide strategic plan. So it is my hope that we can create a plan that provides some strategies and visions that represent the community and provide a complete outline for the way we move forward and approach economic development here in the county. As you all know, our staff has engaged in multiple activities across the past couple of years to support businesses, both large and small, throughout the county. We've also tried to reimagine how we approach economic development, our redevelopment initiatives, as well as supporting our small business community. So today, I want to introduce to you all KB Advisory Group, who you all approved on July 8th. To contract with to assist us with this economic development strategic plan as we move forward. So I'd like to introduce Jeff Koski of KB Advisory, and he'll provide some insights about the strategy and timeline for this plan. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. And County Manager, appreciate the opportunity to be here. And thank you, Sabrina. Again, Jeff Koski, President and owner of KB Advisory Group. We just want to introduce ourselves to you. This is literally day one of this process, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with you very much and looking forward to it. So the idea today is just to kind of give you a chance to let you know who we are. Each member of our consulting team will come up and say a little bit about what we're up to, just so you can get a sense of, again, who we are and who you'll be working with over the next 6 to 9 months. So with that, we will continue with who we are. So again, KB Advisory Group, we are a Atlanta-based firm. We've been around for almost 25 years. For about 20 years, we were known as Blakely Advisory Group. So you may see that name floating around the internet. We are, that's us, same people doing the same thing. We just changed our name during COVID because we didn't have anything else to do. So, but KB Advisory Group, most of our work is done here in Georgia. Most of our work is somehow related to economic development. The majority of our clients are cities and counties in Georgia, CIDs, some CIDs here in Cobb County. And we do work some on the private sector side. But again, our practice is really focused on helping cities and counties understand real estate markets and economic development opportunities. And so we're really looking forward to digging in with you and with Sabrina and with her team on that. We do have a couple of subcontractors who are very important to this process. Kimley Horn, I'm sure you're aware of Kimley Horn. Eric Bosman from Kimley Horn is joining us today to represent Kimley. Kimley Horn, largely for this effort, is going to be really helping us with the public input process that we'll talk about. Obviously, they have hundreds of individuals working throughout the Atlanta region who could come to bear here. If we need to know about engineering and infrastructure, they are here to help us with that. But really, their real role on this is to help us execute the public input plan that we'll talk about. We also have Urban Pulse Community Solutions on our team. Urban Pulse is led by Chris Pike. Chris Pike used to be the Economic Development Director in City of South Fulton. He's now the Joint Development Director in Jackson, Mississippi. So his full-time job is Jackson, Mississippi, but he has a consulting arm in which he applies lots of the lessons that he's learned in his career for us. So he and his team will be making a strategic appearances along the way, and we really rely on his deep background in running economic development offices again, in Georgia and throughout the South. Again, you can see this, it's actually kind of hard to see, but the idea for our practice is kind of encapsulated in this Venn diagram, if you will: land and buildings, public policy, and money and finance. Those are the things that we think about a lot. And really, if you think about how economic development works, those are the essential key pieces to getting economic development done. So we apply all of that to all the work we do, but particularly when we do economic development strategic plans, all of these pieces come to bear, if you will. And particularly for you all, public policy, right? So the idea will be, how do the land and buildings, the money and finance, the real estate market, supply chains, all of that side of things, how does that play out in public policy for the county? That's the big idea. Just to give you a sense of kind of where we're coming from in terms of our understanding and our work in Cobb County, we do a lot of work in Cobb County. We do a lot of work around Georgia and the South, but just so you know, we are currently working with the Gateway Marietta CID along with Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn is leading that effort for their master plan. We're working with City of Powder Springs. We're working in DeKalb County. We're finishing up DeKalb County's economic development strategic plan. So we're learning lessons along the way that we will apply here. Obviously, DeKalb and Cobb are very different, and so this plan will look different than DeKalb's, but the process is somewhat similar, and so we'll apply lessons there. We're also consultants kind of ongoing at this point for both Town Center and for Cumberland CIDs. Again, we're helping them with assessments and strategies for their particular areas. So again, I think, with the work we're doing across the county, with those clients and with other counties across the Atlanta area, we've got a pretty good grounding of where we're going with this, just in terms, again, of the process. And now we're really excited to, kind of start hanging ornaments on the tree, if you will, right? And as we learn about you, that will build this tree and make it bright and shiny. So, the idea here is that the purpose is that, ultimately we want to, any strategic plan, obviously outlines goals, strategies, and tactics, right? So that just at the general sense, right? That's kind of what how this works, is that by doing a lot of research, talking to a lot of community members, understanding your goals and wishes for the county overall, and how economic development helps you achieve those goals, we can then insert those goals into this plan, figure out strategies in terms of, how do we go about doing this, and then the tactics, right? What does Sabrina and her team need to be doing over the next 5 years to really help you all accomplish your goals and strategies that we've laid out? So again, this is coming from your comp plan, right? So every comp plan and your comp plan does have an economic development element to it. And so we're building off of that, right? And your comp plan is well done. It addresses economic development in very, positive ways. And the idea here is, let's go deeper, right? Like this is a great start for strategies. Really, it's more about the tactics. So once we sort of work through what's in the comp plan, what changes need to be made or not, right? We all collectively may decide the comp plan is really a great start. Now, how do we go deeper with that? How do we really get to actualize the ideas that were started in the comprehensive plan? And so again, down to the bottom right? How can Cobb businesses and the larger community become more informed about economic development, right? So that the comp plan exists. How can we elevate that comp plan? How can we take those goals and sort of go deeper, and then make sure the community understands them as well?
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
My screen just went blank. I don't know if anybody else's has.
Yeah.
It's not. Okay, I'll just follow along.
Okay.
I may have to, slide over to the right or left. Okay, thank you.
Chairwoman Cupid, hopefully we will keep you entertained enough so you can stay focused. And in doing so, I'm going to hand the mic off. I'm going to hand the mic off to someone else. So I'll stop blabbing. And if I bored you already, you're in luck. Tate Wilson, well, first of all, we have an amazing team of project managers and consultants that will be executing this plan for you all. So part of this goal is really, or part of today is really to let you know who's going to be doing the work. Certainly I will be with you every step of the way, but this team is really great, and we've done a lot of these economic development strategic plans over the past 3 or 4 years, and this is the team who has done it. So I want you to kind of get a sense of who they are and who you'll be working with. And so first is our director at KB Advisory Group is Tate Wilson, and I'll hand it off to Tate to talk about the schedule.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, good afternoon. Lovely to be here. We're really excited to kick off this process, having accomplished a lot in the metro Atlanta area in terms of the actual implementation of economic development. I think that that's really where this comes into play. I'm a native Georgian, grew up in the metro, so I like to say that I'm an urban planner, but I've cross-trained in kind of the public-private real estate world, and then again on the economic development. So how do we bring those together? And that's really built into our entire process. So I will serve as the external PM, so I'm really the day-to-day and thinking about how that looks with our stakeholders and reaching out, being a face and a resource for Sabrina as we go through this. And shortly you'll hear from Gabby, who will manage kind of the internals within our sub-consultants and getting this work done here, which will span, starting now and then before next summer. You'll have your very first economic development strategic plan, and woven throughout that is the public input. I think that's really important. This first month and a half is really about setting ourselves up. So we will come and meet you all where you are within that, right? You have these existing relationships. Those are the kind of the resources we need to tap into to make this successful. So we're leveraging all of those partnerships. Then comes the fun data side. So this is really couched under our demographic and economic profile. So this is an update of the landscape, thinking both of what is the less tangible economy that exists here in Cobb, how is it positioned within the region, and what does that look like for your unique position within that, and how do you leverage it? Then you get to the built environment side. So how does the real estate market dynamics play with the economy? And we take a far out lens and zoom in and think about what that looks like in an actual redevelopment effort, which is one of the pillars of economic development here in Cobb County. Finally, getting to looking forward. So what are the future target industries? Obviously aligning with state and regional draw, but what's distinctive about Cobb? How can you become competitive in certain industries that you might have a better, you may have more attraction or retention efforts that are specific to you all. Finally, getting to the kumbaya of it. When we get through all of our public input, we don't just listen to you and leave. We'll come back for that consensus workshop. At this point, we'll have those target industries. We'll have an idea of the tools that we may recommend or ones that need to be elevated. We'll work through that process with the stakeholder groups that we'll eventually identify in this process and get everybody on the same page, because economic development really doesn't work if you don't all agree on what the game plan is. Economic development relies on partnerships, both internal to the county and external and to the state level even. And so understanding Cobb's position and as the first plan, this is going to be really important. As you're setting the tone, you're externally telling your partners what it is that you plan to do in the next 5 years, and you're asking them to get on board. So now I will stop talking and give you kind of this broad overview. We'll go into each of these tasks and give a little bit more, daylight a little bit more into what that will look like and entail. So I will pass it over to Gabby, who will take you through that.
Thank you, Tate. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I will say personally, this project is very exciting for me because growing up, I was a Cobb County resident for a little while. So kind of being able, even though I don't currently live within the county, being able to, in a way, kind of help shape the future of it. So yeah, Tate just went over the schedule, so over this process, and so I'll go over kind of a summary of these more specifically. So the first thing that we'll be going over is what we call a data deep dive. So digging into the numbers, that's a big part of what we do as a firm. And so the first part of that will be what we call a profile report. So this will be, with the assistance of Sabrina and her team, looking at, the basic, demographic pieces, population, household growth, educational attainment, those attributes that you're very familiar with, but looking at where does Cobb County sit today, and then also what are some historical trends that help shape where it might be going as we look forward. And if there are other pieces that her team and that you all, from leadership perspective, think that what do you not yet know well enough about the county that you would want more just data information on that? That is a big part that we will be digging into to help meet those needs. And as Tate mentioned, we will also be looking into the built environment portion, so looking at the real estate pieces of it all, looking at the data trends in terms of the various real estate types, where are they located, where are places in the county that, are maybe underperforming, especially with, the built environment is changing all the time, capital markets are changing all the time, real estate trends are never static for very long, especially within the Atlanta region. So looking at where the main redevelopment opportunities are, where the catalytic sites, and making sure that those developments and the kind of the future where we want to see that it is more equally distributed out throughout the county, right? We don't want growth to be just pocketed in certain parts. We want it to be a county-wide growth. And then from there, I think I'll pass it off to Leland briefly, who will talk about some of the public engagement.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Leland Alexander. I focus on both the analysis and some operations. So you're going to see me, actually not see me as much in the first part, right? Focusing on a lot of the baseline economic data, real estate trends, and then engaging directly when it comes to the community and the stakeholder piece of things, right? So as we all know, with any kind of plan, it's not complete without the public input. With our firm, we make sure that that public input is not just a feature, but part of the foundational structure of the plan. And so our approach here is we're using the public input to drive our understanding of the SWOT analysis for Cobb County, right? So what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are our opportunities and threats? And so understanding that stakeholder perspective, we're getting not just, residents, we're getting residents and workers, we're getting property owners, we're getting business owners, the full picture of all the different, perspectives, and using that to identify what are those key drivers of economic development from which either side of the coin of perspective as a worker, as a resident, as a business owner, et cetera, to know what to focus on, right? So we're using that to shape what we're looking at, and frankly also ground sort of proof the data that we're getting. And then that turns into also strengthening collaboration, especially on that stakeholder piece. As Tate said, none of this in actuality can be finished and done if people don't work with each other. And so there's a process and operations piece where how do we make sure that the CIDs are working together and the county is working together and all the different lines of operation are working. Now, how we do this is through many different ways, right? So we're looking at both a steering committee that's getting a lot of the high level piece of the operation. We're also getting open houses, so people can come and talk to us directly about what they're experiencing, what they want to focus on, and also we have specific programs that are engaging and exercising, so it's not just people jotting down something on a piece of paper, but we're asking the right questions to get the answers that we need to work from. We also do resident and business surveys that build into this like really granular data of the full picture of what people are experiencing. And this is also helpful so that there's not just in person, but there is online options for people to communicate with us, right? Everyone's work day looks different and not everyone can get to an open house, so we have ways of operating around that. And then on the stakeholder side, we have one-on-one interviews where we, especially that and the focus groups, touching on direct points of interest so that we can get that sharpened perspective to shape things later on. And then, of course, we will speak with all of you individually to see, where you are and what priorities you have and your perspective for the county. Thank you. Next, back to Gabby. Thank you.
Thank you, Leland. And so, we're doing our data piece first, and then throughout the process, of course, so we incorporate the public input. And then so as Leland had touched on earlier, right, we want to ground truth the data that we have been seeing, right, because you can't have just one, right? And so with those together, and after hearing, of course, from you all and from the stakeholders especially, we will delve into, looking to where there are opportunities to update or modify your target industries. As Tate had mentioned earlier, right, your current ones obviously mirror what is happening regionally at the state level, but of course it's like, well, how can we make Cobb County stand out, and what are specific assets that you all have that your peer counties do not, right? So being able to, how do we leverage those and pinpoint what they are? And at the very end, as Jeff mentioned at the beginning, right, it's about having an implementable action plan, right? So your comprehensive plan has some broad overarching goals, and so how do we really give it some teeth? What are very specific things that you can be doing? What specific time frame that they should be happening in? Who are your specific partners? As well as there are some initiatives that you as the county can be in charge of, but there are also some that your partners will be in charge of, and you're just there for support. So it's helping making sure that everyone kind of understands the vision for the county from an economic development perspective, how we want to get there, and then what is everyone's role in making that happen. And so with that, before I'm going to pass it off to Jeff, but we do have a couple questions that we have for you all while we're with you this afternoon. But before we get into that, are there any questions at this point that you have for us?
Commissioner Brunel, did you have a question?
Just some comments.
Yes, I would like for each of the commissioners to provide comments whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
We'll continue to hear from you with respect to the presentation you've already prepared.
That's great. So, yeah, so we have, these are the questions that we've prepared. We certainly don't want to limit you all to this. These are just conversation starters because we really want to take this opportunity to have a conversation with you. We just, dumped a lot of information on you, and so we want to, this is going to be a 9-month process. And so, we're just getting started, but at the same time, it's important for us to sort of establish a rapport, if you will, but also an opportunity to let you guide us as we get started, from day one. So that's really the idea here, over the next, call it 30 minutes, if you can help us establish some guiding lights, the North Stars for us, what's really kind of near and dear to your heart as it relates to economic development, that will be great. And so we'll start with some of these questions. Before we even get into that, I'll just say, working around the state of Georgia on all sorts of different issues, I think there's a big sort of question, what does growth look like, right? We're in a very high growing region. We're one of the fastest growing regions in the nation. But we're also just in the 5 core counties of Atlanta, there's 60 different jurisdictions, right? 60 different bodies that get to make decisions for their representatives. And all 60 of those get to choose what growth looks like for them. And so that's one thing I want you all to really press us on, is to say, okay, we get that growth is happening, but in Cobb County, growth to us looks like this, right? What does growth look like to y'all? And because as we work throughout the state, it's different everywhere. And in Atlanta and in fast-growing areas, I think if some people feel like, we're being overwhelmed by growth. So, but that being said, what do we do about that? How do we react to that? How do we get proactive and not have to react to that growth? How do we shape the growth that is surely coming? So I think that's probably, in my mind, one of the biggest questions. And at the same time, I think there's an essential question: is growth for whom, right? So growth is, I think generally the consensus is growth is good. There's the old saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. I think we generally agree with that, but at the same time, there isn't one flavor of growth, and growth isn't the same to every resident of Cobb County, right? Yeah. For some people, they see growth as a threat to their livelihood and their lifestyle. Yeah. And so we want to be sensitive to that as well. And so I don't want you all to think that, this is all about like how to just, gobble up as much economic development that we can. And right, I think that's the whole point of being strategic about economic development. And so before we get into anything, I just wanted to kind of tenor the conversation around that this is y'all's plan, right? This is a plan that Sabrina will be in charge of putting into place, but really the county gets to decide, and you all, representatives of the county can really help us shape this in a way that makes you all and your constituents comfortable, as comfortable as possible, I would say. And again, recognizing that there is a vast spectrum of of interests and opportunities, and making sure that this growth is as positive as it can be for as many people as it can be. And that we really are dedicated to that idea, that this is something that is ultimately the type of economic development that you all are trying to achieve is good for as many people in the county as possible. So I think that to me sets our tone and where we go from. Again, I'll just say out loud all three of these questions, and then maybe turn it back to you if that's all right, Chairwoman. And each of you can answer one of these questions, or if you want to take it and run with it in a different direction, if we've haven't asked the question you wanted to answer, then answer that question. So the three questions that we put out is, how do you see this Economic Development Strategic Plan? Sorry for the acronyms. Our world is full of acronyms. Economic Development Strategic Plan, EDSP. How do you see this plan serving the county leadership over the next 5 years? So we're really interested in, once this plan is in place, how do you want to interact with it? How, where do you see your all selves fit in with this plan, and how does that help you? And again, what questions do you have, right? We're here just getting started. As you heard, we're going to be talking to hundreds of people. We're going to be diving deep into thousands of data points. What can we uncover for you? We're here for you. What can we help you with? We're covering a lot of ground here. Point us in some directions that you've been wondering about, and we'll go help figure it out. And then the last thing is there anything you think the consultant team should keep in mind during this process? So again, we've done a lot of talking here. Now we're here to listen mostly. You tell us how you think this is going to benefit you the most, and what do we need to really keep in mind as we go about this. Okay. So with that, if it's all right, Chairwoman, I'll kind of hand it back to you, and let's talk.
Sure. I would like to go down the dais and hear from each commissioner, unless somebody just really wants to leap forward and respond first. But as each commissioner responds, please keep in consideration what the consultant shared. You can respond to each question individually, or respond considering those, and just share what you would like for them to know. So, okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. The first question that came to my mind is, are you working with our chamber and Select Cobb? Because they have traditionally been what helps drive business to Cobb County and get them to choose Cobb County. So are you working with our chamber and Select Cobb?
We will be, absolutely. We are, again, day one, we have, you're the first people we've talked to. So we're not working with them yet, but they are at the top of our list on stakeholders and the people that we're going to engage with. And so again, as we've done this, again, throughout the region, we agree with you that there are partner organizations. As Tate said, this is, well, lots of people like to say economic development is a team sport, right? And so we believe that, and we know that from our previous work that those are essential economic development entities in the county, and we understand, we don't know all the history, but we understand that historically they have been the people driving a lot of the economic development strategy in the county. And so our goal is to, merge where they're coming from with this, to the extent that that is, the way that you all want to see it go, right? And so, so that's a long way to say, we absolutely will be. We hope that they'll be part of our stakeholder group. We hope to be doing one-on-one interviews with them. We want to put them at the table as part of this plan as much as we can, because we do understand that they're important.
Well, and I guess that's where I'm disappointed in today, that they're not here at the kickoff. Because again, they have been an integral part to the county, yet they're not here today. I don't even know if they're aware of this presentation. But going into your presentation as far as growth, we know we have areas to grow for economic, industrial, commercial type growth areas. But we also know, as far as residential growth, the land that we have left available has many environmental sensitivities. So while you are sitting here looking at only growth, are you going to sit back and look and say, hey, this area really shouldn't be developed because of lake streams, other factors, limited sewer, that if we do grow in here, we're going to potentially be more detrimental than, growing than if we leave it alone. So are you going to look at it in reverse as well, instead of just everything grow, grow, grow? Because that's one thing that we hear from our constituents is we don't want to be like Atlanta. We don't want to be like DeKalb. We don't want to be like Gwinnett. So you concerned me when you said, the 60 county regions. I think it's going to be very critical that we keep our own identity going forward in this. Also, I think we need to look, going back to infrastructure, if we can expand our infrastructure, and that's not only roads, but sewer, and the ability to treat sewer and then also discharge sewer. Because we know we have the capacity to treat sewer all day long, but we don't necessarily have the capacity to discharge it. And that is because our lakes are over the limits that EPD sets. So again, you're talking about growth, 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 but if we don't have the capacity to treat and release water, what are we going to do with it? As far as specific questions, I'd like to answer again. We do have a comp plan. The comp plan has gotten us to where we are today, and it has been very successful at helping guide where we are today and our growth. I don't necessarily, again, think it needs to be changed, given what hasn't developed has challenges to it. And then again, the only thing I think you should keep in mind is I am struggling with the strategic plan and was one of the no votes for the funding for this, because I think Cobb County is walking a very fine line of being the economic development driver in the county, where that is the role of the chamber and Select Cobb.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Commissioner. As other commissioners respond, I just want to encourage you to see this as opportunity and a partnership. Even though we may have concerns, I don't want us to view this as adversarial. This is really the first economic development plan that I'm aware of us having ever, at least within the 13 years that I have here. So please consider you having the opportunity to shape this. You don't have to view that they are driving this for us. They're responding to us with respect to how this looks. And when it comes to us, it's going to be probably a quorum of us. There may be differences of opinion, but I don't want to give an impression that they've already shaped what this looks like. This is our first interaction, and I appreciate this very significant step because we just approved this. But please view your role as an opportunity to shape this. Don't presume that anything has been done ahead of us helping to guide them where they're going.
And if I could just follow on a little, just briefly, that's why we specifically chose to have that page from the comp plan, is because we wanted to send the signal that we're building from there. We're not, that's the idea, is that this builds from the comp plan. We think it is effective, and at the same time, we are, next week, we start our process of going through all your active plans. Okay. Every plan that touches anything that has to do with economic development, and that's everything. We will have a grounding in all of that, and so we hope to develop a deep understanding of your infrastructure and your park system and all of the things that are highlighted in the plans that you do have, obviously, particularly the comp plan, but we build off of those. And so that's how we get to know you first, is through the plans that you've already approved, and we build from there. And so we think that's very important to this whole thing, is that we don't just go start having random conversations, but our first move is really to ground ourselves in your already approved plans that you're working, because all of those things impact economic development. So again, I think I appreciate you saying that, Commissioner Gambrell. It's important that we have that understanding that you want us to have about the infrastructure and the opportunities and the challenges with development, and this really should be reflective of all of those plans coming to play in this plan about economic development.
Thank you. Commissioner?
So I just have a few questions. The first one is on the steering committee. Two-part on that, will any of the members of this board be part of that steering committee? And also, kind of, what do you see as the makeup of that steering?
It's a great question. We were actually just talking about that with Sabrina before we started. So here's our idea. And again, this is your plan. If you say this is a bad idea, we're ready to flex with you. But this is our recommendation, that each of you appoint two different people, right? One on the public side, right? So you're a public, somebody that you trust to give proper input into this plan that is just a Cobb County person. And then also somebody that is on the business side, right? So who would you like to speak for Cobb County businesses on the steering committee? And so that's what we would propose, is that you each give us two names. If you would like to serve on that steering committee, yes, you should have that opportunity as well. So it could be three, and one of them could be you. If you wanted it to be that way, again, we're here to have that discussion if you want to be on that or not. So that's how we typically would do it. And so that way there would be a minimum of 10 people on that steering committee, potentially up to 15 if you all 5 wanted to be on there as well. And then, again, that steering committee is really helping us navigate through the next 9 months. And that, that steering committee sees things that hit the public before we present it here at this, that really kind of help us refine the messaging, that sort of thing.
All right, and then lastly, on the last bullet, one of the things to keep in mind is I would like for us to have visibility into who you've identified as stakeholders, not necessarily to know who's there, but who's been excluded that we may think may add value. I think all of us know our districts and who in those areas could probably add value to the conversation, so I just like to have visibility into who you've selected or identified as a stakeholder in these conversations.
Yep. I appreciate that very much. And again, I think, obviously Sabrina and her staff will be a conduit to you all on that regard, in that, just to keep things moving, we'll send lists and ideas and questions through them so that, we're not, and unless and we're always happy to be here. We can make a presentation every time you meet if you wanted to, but I don't think you necessarily need us on every agenda, but we're happy to be here as much as you want. And in the meantime, when we are here, we'll be communicating through Sabrina and her staff to do exactly what you're saying, Commissioner Allen.
All right, well, thank you very much. This is exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'd first like to say Sabrina and her team do a phenomenal job. I've worked with them when Sabrina was here before in our Economic Development Department, before she was the director, on the Canton Road corridor years and years ago, and most recently with the Northeast Cobb Business Association that I co-chair with a friend, and am a charter member. So we took on the presidency the last 2 years, and she and her team, she has spoken to our group a few times, and has participated in things that we've done at the business association level, but also encouraging businesses in the area just to apply for grants that they offer and other benefits that the county can provide to small business. So you've got a great team to work with. We love Sabrina and the crew. The suggestions or comments that I have would be to include all 12 business associations that cover all districts and county-wide areas. And I think they would have some great input, as Sabrina can guide you through those. And really to target the small business, to keep them thriving and in economic development, and lure additional businesses here. Also, would this include redevelopment or just new business coming to Cobb? We do still have some blighted areas or ones that are in need of revitalizing. So I didn't know, is this going to be part of that?
Short answer, yes. The depth in which we get into any particular area won't be as deep as if you did, a small area plan that spent 9 months just looking at one area. So we know there are small area plans, LCI studies, and other things like that exist, which we will, again, unpack here starting next week. So that will guide us in terms of where the redevelopment focus has been. Where do you already have plans, or where in other plans have there been areas pointed out? Obviously, we've been doing our own research to look at, where the real estate market is strong, where there's challenges, with old buildings or, that sort of thing. So the idea is once we've sort of established where the target industries are, what the real kind of opportunities are at the county level, then what is the place-based strategy to make them work, right? Some of these things will need place-based strategies, right? We're going to go after this industry, and this area would be a great place for that industry to grow or expand or land. And so that will be part of it, is to kind of match up the economic development goals with the places in the county that could help advance that goal. Some of the things we do are not necessarily place-based, right? There's strategies for Sabrina and her team. There's strategies for the county policy. And so those won't necessarily be as place-based, but certainly, yes, we want to, understand in depth where the spots in the county that are in need of economic development or could accept more economic development.
Okay, and then also, there is a coalition of business associations that meet quarterly.
Okay.
And it includes the presidents of all the 12 business associations. So we welcome your team and
Great.
Sabrina to meet with them as well.
Super. I really appreciate you saying that, Commissioner. And again, we've done that many times in the past where, it's not part of our, work plan to go to a meeting at the chamber necessarily, but that we see it's on there, it's a chamber meeting, and that sounds like it's something we need to know about, so we go and show up, right? And we're don't necessarily have to engage, but just we need to be there and hear what's going on and let it wash over us and sink in and apply that into this plan. So
Right.
so we will take you up on that, absolutely. We want to
Okay.
be at those meetings that
And
will
of course, our
inform us.
CIDs.
The CIDs, of course, are important to all of this
yeah.
as well, no
are
doubt.
there, and they would be involved as well.
Yep.
So, in all honesty and fairness, I too voted against the bid for the consultant for a strategic plan for economic development, just because it was already one of the components of our overall county strategic plan, and I didn't think we should be spending the money. However, it did pass, and it's here, so I'm willing to work with you any way we can.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff and your team, for being here, and to Jessica and Sabrina and all of the work that you've done in this space. I appreciate all of your efforts. You mentioned that we would be allowed to have county staff serve on the advisory council, but if you can just slide back a few slides, I want to see if, hold on, go back. The steering committee and focus groups, will there be county employees that will be consulted throughout this process? And part of the reason I'm asking is because stormwater has been an issue within the county, and as we continue to frame out what economic development is going to look like, I'm just curious to know the type of touch points you'll have with the department heads.
Again, yeah, I think that, we want to make sure that we cover all the bases that need to be covered, is kind of the easy answer to say. We absolutely want to work with Sabrina and y'all to understand who it is that needs to be at the table. Again, I mean, we can rely upon our past experiences, rely upon what we know about the county and our experiences here, but we also want to get your input. So again, the short answer is yes. We want to include as many voices in this as we can.
Okay. Just a couple other questions. Will you all pursue grant opportunities where available? Do you do grant writing?
No, that's not really this plan. There's not a piece of there's not a task in the scope that where we're putting efforts into grant writing. But what
Okay.
we can do is start to identify the types of grants that are out there for you as
Okay.
part of the implementation plan.
Okay. I tell you, I am excited to see that data is obviously a part of this, and there is a path forward in taking a deep dive into the data, and I think that we can somehow incorporate this or integrate this into our county strategic plan. We also have a dashboard as well that's we're getting off the ground, so I think there's an opportunity to integrate the two. But it was also mentioned, and I think it was on the slide, or maybe someone shared that you'll fulfill the needs or shape the needs for the different communities throughout Cobb. So obviously, there is a economic development plan for the county as a whole, but each district is very unique in it of itself. And for District 4, in which I am the commissioner, one of our strongest, I guess, economic drivers within the district is the Wellstar Hotel. And one of the things, I'm sorry, Austell Hospital. What did I say? Hotel, the hospital. Thank you guys for listening.
Wake us up.
Yeah, wait a the Wellstar Hotel on Austell Road. Hospital.
She's got, you got tunnel.
She's clairvoyant.
I got
Maybe they
tunnel
will have a
vision.
hospital. Maybe they will have a hotel at the hospital.
They need a hotel, apparently.
Yeah, we need a hotel. I'm speaking it into existence as
Yeah,
it said. But at any rate, what, you know, and we'll have these discussions in one-on-one, but one of the things I'd like to see is to build that into or shape that into like a medical campus. So I think Emory, there are a lot of medical buildings, clinics in the area. There can also be an opportunity there for nursing schools, some of the things that I've been working on. So I'm looking forward to touching base with you to see how that would pan out.
That's great. Yeah,
At the hospital.
Hospital, yes, yes. I mean, I personally, I believe that, health districts are something that are real opportunities across the country in that, how do we, there's this idea of agglomeration effects, to use a real technical term, right? Like when you take different pieces and you put them close to each other, to keep using metaphors, the sum is greater than the whole of the parts. I probably even messed that up, but the point is that, yeah, if you put these health-oriented pieces near each other, you grow something that is beyond what they would be doing just individually floating around elsewhere. So
Right.
I
And they're
agree with you.
they're there, but I think with a little bit more planning, we can make it greater than what it is
Yep.
now.
I like it.
All right.
I'm with you. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I may be piggybacking off of a number of things that were shared, but I first want to say thank you. Thank you for being here and giving us this opportunity to strategically think about how we plan for our economic growth and sustenance here in the county. It's been a long time coming for us, and thank you, Sabrina, for helping to move this forward. And I have to thank the federal government. Thanks for the ARP program, which has provided us the dollars for us to take a step back and think about this program. I do have similar concerns that may have been echoed by the commissioners, but also I see this as an opportunity is in recognizing Cobb's diversity, in that we can look at opportunities from an aggregate space, and from an aggregate perspective, Cobb is doing very well. We're the third largest county here in the state. We have one, if not the top strongest economic driver in the Cumberland area. So I think if you were to just take a broad look at where Cobb is, someone might say, start where you are and just move forward. But there are differences across the county, and perhaps what may work from a broad perspective may not work in each of our areas. And so, again, Commissioner Gamble's district, it is a district that may not have a desire to grow as quickly as some other areas of the county. And even in each district, as Commissioner Sheffield shared, there is diversity within each district. I hate to add any more work, But while there may be one plan for the entire county, if we each add people, there could even be a group within the district that could provide a varied perspective. And if you have any more than 3 of us in the steering committee, it would be an open
right.
meeting.
Yep.
But if you did something like in a district, maybe just had one stakeholder meeting there, you can get the voice of the commissioner there and the voice of people who are still within very diverse areas of that district itself. So that was a thought that I had. Having been the district commissioner of District 4, I'm very sensitive to the fact that there is this thought that a rising tide floats all boats, but sometimes the boat could be floating like this and everybody who's up top is okay, but there's some areas that just never reach the level of success that we presume for all of Cobb County. So for me, a focus on equity is very important. We have some areas of the county where their unemployment continues to be double of other areas of the county, even though they are proximate to job centers. So I would just like some help in how we activate those areas that may not bubble up when you're looking at the data as a whole. That everyone here in the county should have the opportunity to not only be employed, but to be gainfully employed and to be in a profession that helps to improve their outcomes in the county. With that, you know, we're a county of not only 4 districts, but we're a county of now 7 cities, and what they do in the cities impacts what we do in the counties. So this may be a part of your surveys, but probably some inclusion of the cities when you go out and do your public outreach. Just, I would hate for us to be doing something that contrasts, and we could be doing things that complement each other and maybe find some partnership there. I would like your help with policy. Are there things in our policies, in our ordinances, that may be facilitating where we want to go, but may be detracting from where we want to go? So having some help with that would be beneficial. Something that I'm concerned about, and it's come up in this conversation here today, is agency when it comes to economic development. So there's certainly a strong partnership and even a reliance that the county has had on the chamber to drive economic development. But when it comes to agency, they're a member-driven organization, and we are a constituent citizen-driven organization. And so I'm very concerned about us giving agency over to something that may not represent who we all represent as a whole. And how do we maximize the partnership without losing our call to the public good? So I think as you're assessing opportunity, I would like to see some assessment of how we optimize that relationship. Because as Select Cobb was created, I know there was a lot of dissension when I was here. There has been a lot of movement in positions since I've been here. And I think now that we finally have an economic development director, thank you, Sabrina, I think it's time that we really help define that. And if we don't define it as a board very well, we can't define it to the public. I've heard it shared that our economic development office, they only do neighborhood scale development. That's not true, but that is not the message that's being shared. So we need to have a better understanding of what that scope of our economic development department looks like. We need understanding of what that partnership looks like, and not just us, but the community as a whole does. So that's something I would asked to be considered. And you hit the nail on the head of what does growth look like. I circled that when you were speaking. Cobb gains a lot of its strength by being known as the 3rd largest county. When you're in the top 3 of anything, you're a player. And, you know, I would like for you to help us understand what may happen and what could happen if that position changes as far as being a player when it comes to economic development. We've been talking a lot about community development in this conversation. They go hand in hand. And just help us to see the breadth of that in this conversation. I'm very concerned, to be honest, as a chair, I'm very concerned about policies that we're making that can help us expedite a waning of our strength as a county. I'm very concerned because for us to have the development in the county, it took some forethought of past leaders to put in sewer and all those things. And now we have other issues we need to deal with, but just help us as far as context is concerned. And that gets to my last point I was trying to remember. I know you stated that you would be looking at our plans to see where we start, but our plans age over time and the board changes over time. So I think our plans can provide some context, but I think we're going to be updating our comp plan very soon. So I would just ask that you leverage the voice of who's sitting here today, because there could be some contrast for where that next iteration of the comp plan is. And I'd hate for us to be planning on where we were versus where this board may see us going as a county. So I appreciate this opportunity today. You've got a sense of what you're walking into. You have disparate opinions about who and what we are as a county. So you've got your work cut out for you, but it's real, right? It's real as how we are as a country. It's where we are as a state, but that doesn't mean we all don't benefit from us still kind of moving forward in the same direction. So just please keep that in mind. Everybody is here because we've been elected to serve, and we serve a very diverse constituency. And I hope that those differences don't frustrate you in this process. It's something that we continue to see the county move forward because of it. I think our diversity is our strength, and I hope that even though sometimes it's, you know, as you get difficult, those weights are not always easy to move, but you get stronger in the end, and I'm hoping that after this process we'll be stronger because of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, commissioners, do you have any other comments? I see Jessica, you're standing up. Please approach if you would like to do so.
And thank you, board, for giving us this opportunity today to introduce the consultant team and to kind of start kicking off this process. Just a few things I wanted to mention here after hearing the feedback and the comments of the board. Some things that I think are important to keep in mind is that, you know, as you all know, ultimately you're the policymakers. You know, the countywide strategic plan that was done and adopted last year, economic development is one element of this. So this gives us the opportunity to dive deeper into that. And just like the comprehensive plan is your policy guide for land use, this will be your policy guide for economic development. There was a lot of discussion about the comp plan, and as you know, we've reached out to all of your offices this week and now have meetings scheduled with each of you to talk about the comp plan, and we're kicking off the next comp plan update this fall, so I'm really excited. I think that the timing here works out really nicely, that we'll be able, because the land use element is an important part of it, and community development and economic development are intrinsically linked. So I think that the timing works out really nicely, that we'll be able to share some information there and to make sure that it's going to be a cohesive plan moving forward. So we're looking forward to engaging all of our stakeholders. You know, of course, we've got the Chamber of Commerce, we have the CIDs, all of those being member-driven organizations, whereas you also are the voices of not only the businesses, but also the residents. So, and you also have a lot of tools in your toolbox that these organizations don't have when we talk about things like tax allocation districts. Of course, we have the special service district that right now you are considering with the code amendment package. So this gives us an opportunity to really explore the tools that are in the county's toolbox to help facilitate economic development and make sure that it's thoughtful, make sure that it's in line with the land use plans and the infrastructure. Of course, we'll take a deeper dive into the infrastructure as we work on the land use plan also. So all those things, it all works together. So we're excited to have all of you involved in this. We're excited to reach out to all of our stakeholders. In fact, Sabrina's going to be following up with you today to ask each of you to give us some suggestions, some names for that stakeholder committee, because we want to be sure that we've got representation from throughout the county, and of course both both from the business community as well as from our resident community. So, and again, Commissioner Burrow, thank you for your shout out to the economic development team. Since Sabrina joined us a few years ago and the work that she and her team, of course, now we've got Robin here, and of course, Brittany Rasmussen's not here, and Lynn Ewan, who we poached from the county attorney's office. So we really do. I mean, we've got 4 people who are doing just a tremendous amount of work on the economic development front. I'm really excited about where that's headed and excited about the opportunities that the Economic Development Strategics Plan is going to give us to continue to grow on that work and to do even greater things moving forward. So thank you all.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. With that, our meeting is now adjourned. Please feel free to join us back at 7 p.m. for our General Board of Commissioners meeting. Thank you.